The galactic research vessel Inquiring Mind settled onto the grassy field with a gentle hiss, its anti-gravity thrusters powering down after the long journey from the Cygnus cluster. Dr. Mood. Kwarlovex, the ship's lead xenanthropologist, peered through the view screen at the unremarkable blue-green planet they'd traveled 17 parsecs to study. Remind me again why we're wasting valuable research cycles on this backwater mudball. Kwarlo adjusted his sensory appendages with obvious irritation. His metallic blue skin glinted under the ship's lights as he turned to face his two research assistants. Zorl, the taller of the two assistants, consulted her datapad. According to the Galactic Encyclopedia, Earth is home to a Class 3 sentient species. Mostly harmless. Primary achievements include reality television and cheese in aerosol cans. Fascinating, Plink chimed in, his orange eye stalk swiveling with enthusiasm. They've only achieved limited space travel but have developed over 6,000 types of breakfast cereal. Kwarlo sighed. Fine. The Council insisted we catalog every sentient species, even the boring ones. Engage the translation matrix, activate the perception filters, and let's get this over with. I want to be back for the Galactic Academic Conference next cycle. As they disembarked, Kwarlo immediately regretted his choice of landing site. They stood before a vast field of white stone markers arranged in perfect rows. Did we land on their reproductive cultivation facility? Plink asked, scribbling notes frantically. No, you moron, Kwarlo snapped. This appears to be some kind of data storage system? Perhaps a primitive external memory bank? An elderly human approached them, apparently unfazed by their alien appearance thanks to the perception filters. You folks here for the memorial tour? Arlington's closing in an hour. Memorial? Zorl queried, her translator working perfectly. What are you memorializing? The old man looked surprised. The fallen soldiers, of course. Over 400,000 of our military's finest are buried here. Kwarlo's central processing organ nearly seized. 400,000? From what catastrophic event? Various wars throughout our history, the man said casually. World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Middle East conflicts, you know, the usual. The usual? Plink's voice modulator rose 3 octaves. Yep, the man continued, and this is just one of many such cemeteries. If you want the real numbers, you should talk to Professor Thompson at the museum downtown. He could tell you about the hundreds of millions who've died in our wars. As the man walked away, the 3 aliens stood frozen in shock. Did he say hundreds of millions? Zorl whispered. Perhaps our translation matrix is malfunctioning, Kwarlo suggested hopefully. Plink was already consulting the ship's database. No malfunction, sir. Preliminary data suggests humans have engaged in continuous warfare for approximately 93% of their recorded history. Kwarlo's eye membranes blinked rapidly. But that's impossible. No species could survive that level of self-destructive behavior. Apparently, Zorl said quietly, this one has. Professor Jack Thompson wasn't what the aliens expected. With his tweed jacket, unruly white hair, and booming laugh, he reminded Kwarlo of a Nubulian joy merchant rather than an expert on mass death. Welcome to the National War Museum. Thompson gestured grandly at the massive building behind him. When your embassy called about your research project, I was thrilled. Nothing like fresh eyes to gain new perspectives. The aliens exchanged glances. Their cover story as foreign researchers seemed to be working, though they hadn't specified how foreign. Now, Thompson continued, leading them through massive doors. We'll start with ancient warfare swords, spears, catapults before moving to the really interesting stuff, gunpowder, mechanized warfare, aerial bombardment. Excuse me, Zorl interrupted. You categorize your warfare by the efficiency with which you kill each other. Thompson beamed. Precisely. Your quick studies. The first hall contained primitive weapons. Stone axes gave way to bronze swords, iron spears, and elaborate armor. Plink noted with alarm that the craftsmanship improved dramatically with each century. The Battle of Kadesh, 1274 BCE, Thompson announced proudly before a massive diorama. Over 5,000 chariots. Tens of thousands dead in a single day. And this was your planet's most devastating conflict? Quarlo asked hopefully. Thompson laughed so hard he had to wipe tears from his eyes. Oh goodness, no, that's just the beginning. Wait until we get to the 20th century. As they moved through the museum, the death tolls rose exponentially. The aliens grew increasingly disturbed. The Mongol conquests -40 million dead. The Three Kingdoms War -36 million. The World War I -20 million. World War I -75 million. Quarlo's exoskeleton had begun to pale to a sickly teal. You had 2 world wars? How many worlds do you even have? Just the one, Thompson replied cheerfully. We're very efficient. Plink was frantically calculating. Professor, our species has existed for 3 million years. In that time, we've had 17 armed conflicts with a total casualty count of approximately 8,000. 8,000? Thompson looked perplexed. That's about what we lose in a minor skirmish. Heck, we've had training exercises with higher casualty counts. Zorl noticed a display labeled Cold War and wandered over. This conflict appears to have no casualty figures. Was it peaceful? Oh no, Thompson chuckled. That's when we built enough nuclear weapons to destroy all life on Earth several times over. We called it peace through strength. Quarlo made a choking sound. You developed the capability to exterminate your entire species and consider this an achievement? Well, we didn't actually use them on each other anyway. Just the 2 test cases in Japan. Test cases, Plink whispered. When Thompson showed them footage of Hiroshima, Zorl had to excuse herself to the waste extraction facility. I don't understand, Quarlo said, watching Thompson's enthusiastic explanations with growing horror. In our language, we have over 300 words for peace and only 2 for conflict. Our translators are struggling with your vocabulary. Interesting. Thompson nodded. We have war, battle, conflict, skirmish, combat, engagement, firefight, clash, hostility, struggle, campaign. As Thompson continued listing synonyms for warfare, Plink quietly updated their report, humans, significantly more dangerous than previously categorized. Recommend immediate quarantine. General Dana Rodriguez, retired. The imposing woman introduced herself, her handshake nearly crushing Quarlo's appendage. Professor Thompson said, you're interested in our defensive capabilities. They stood in a massive underground facility labeled Strategic Weapons Museum, classified section. Thompson had made a call, pulled some strings, and suddenly the aliens found themselves with access that would make most humans jealous. Yes, Quarlo replied cautiously. We're particularly interested in understanding how your species has survived its own technological development. Rodriguez laughed. Sheer dumb luck, mostly. She led them past a series of increasingly nightmarish devices. This is Little Boy, the first nuclear weapon used in warfare. Primitive by today's standards, but it got the job done. The job being? Zorl asked, her voice trembling. Vaporizing an entire city in seconds. Rodriguez pointed to a timeline on the wall. From this point, we developed increasingly sophisticated ways to annihilate each other. Hydrogen bombs, neutron bombs, MIRVs, tactical nukes. Plink was taking extensive notes. And these weapons, they're no longer used? Well, we still have about 13,000 nuclear warheads scattered around the globe, but we've agreed not to use them except in emergencies. What constitutes an emergency? Quarlo asked. Oh, you know, Tuesday. Someone feels threatened. A leader has a bad hair day. Rodriguez winked, but the aliens didn't laugh. The next hall contained biological weapons. Zorl physically recoiled from a display on weaponized smallpox. You deliberately enhanced diseases to kill more efficiently? She whispered. Sure did. Rodriguez seemed oddly proud. Though we banned those too, eventually. Most countries complied, more or less. More or less. Corlo repeated. Rodriguez shrugged. Let's just say verification is tricky. As they continued, Plink suddenly stopped before a small display case containing an ordinary-looking bullet. What's special about this primitive projectile? He asked. Rodriguez smiled. That's a prototype of our newest smart bullet. It can change direction mid-flight, recognize facial features, and select targets autonomously. You've given weapons autonomy. Zorl's voice rose to a shriek. Calm down, Rodriguez said. It's not like we've given nuclear launch capabilities to artificial intelligence systems. She paused. Well, not completely anyway. Corlo's translator must have malfunctioned, because what he thought he heard couldn't possibly be correct. General, he said carefully, could you explain your concept of MAD? Mutually assured destruction? Simple game theory. If I have enough weapons to destroy you completely, and you have enough to destroy me completely, neither of us will attack first. The three aliens stared at her. What? Rodriguez looked confused. It's worked so far. How long has this been your strategic doctrine? Plink asked. Man, about 70 years. And how many close calls have you had? Rodriguez thought for a moment. 24 officially. Probably hundreds unofficially. Zorl quietly updated their report. Humans, inexplicably not extinct. Possibly immortal. Definitely insane. The peaceful suburban neighborhood was giving Corlo cognitive whiplash. After 2 days studying humanity's capacity for self-destruction, the sight of children playing on manicured lawns seemed impossible. I don't understand, he muttered as their rented vehicle crawled down Maple Street. How can they live so normally knowing their history? They parked in front of a modest home where Mike Chen, video game developer, greeted them enthusiastically. The foreign researchers. Come in, come in. I've got everything set up for you. Inside, Chen had transformed his living room into a gaming paradise. Screens of various sizes displayed colorful, chaotic scenes of, wait. Is that combat? Zorl asked, watching a hyper-realistic battle unfold on the largest screen. Call of Battlefield, Modern Warfare Extreme, Chen confirmed proudly. My studio's biggest hit. 70 million copies sold worldwide. You simulate warfare? For entertainment? Corlo couldn't keep the horror from his voice. Sure, kids love it. Here, try the VR version. Before Corlo could protest, Chen had strapped a device to his head. Suddenly he was in the middle of a firefight, explosions all around, bullets whizzing past. His screams brought Chen running. Whoa, dude. It's just a game. Outside, they watched actual children playing in a yard. One pointed a stick at another and yelled, "Bang! I got you." The shot child dramatically clutched his chest. No fair. I had a force field. Are they simulating death? Plink whispered. Just playing, Chen explained. Kids have always played war games. It's harmless. Back inside, Chen showed them his game development studio. Our next project simulates an alien invasion, he explained, showing concept art of creatures that looked disturbingly similar to actual species the research team had encountered. What happens to the aliens in your game? Zorl asked. Oh, the players slaughter them by the thousands, Chen said casually. The final boss is this giant mothership that you nuke from orbit. And humans, enjoy this? Love it. Our pre-orders are through the roof. Plink, who had been examining a bookshelf, suddenly called out, Dr. Vex. Look at these entertainment titles. The shelf contained films with names like World War Z, Independence Day, War of the Worlds, and Starship Troopers. All alien invasion movies, Chen explained. We've made hundreds of them. And in these films, Quarlo asked carefully, what typically happens to the invading species? Total annihilation, usually, Chen replied cheerfully. Sometimes we capture a few for study. Occasionally we find a peaceful solution, but that doesn't sell as well. Leaving Chen's house, the aliens walked in stunned silence back to their vehicle. They've created an entire entertainment industry around killing things from space, Zoral finally said. And they introduced their young to warfare as a form of play, added Plink. Quarlo stared at the peaceful neighborhood. The most terrifying thing isn't their capacity for violence, he said quietly. It's how completely they've normalized it. The aliens' final research appointment brought them to Dr. Eleanor Wright, humanitarian aid specialist, at her office in the United Nations building. You've spent 2 days studying our warfare, she said, reviewing their itinerary. That's like judging all of dog behavior by looking only at wolves. You're missing the full picture. There's a positive side to creating nuclear weapons. Quarlo couldn't keep the sarcasm from his voice. Not the weapons themselves, Wright clarified, but the capacity behind them. The same ingenuity that created weapons has saved billions of lives. She showed them statistics on disease eradication, famine prevention, and disaster relief. After the 2037 Indonesian tsunami, 30 nations deployed their military forces not to fight, but to save lives. Aircraft carriers became floating hospitals. Destroyers desalinated water for survivors. Special forces rescued people from collapsed buildings. The aliens watched footage of soldiers carrying children through floodwaters, setting up field hospitals, delivering supplies to remote villages. The same countries that once bombed each other now conduct joint disaster relief operations, Wright continued. Former enemies train together to respond to global crises. But why maintain military forces at all? Zoral asked. Wright smiled sadly. Old habits die hard. But increasingly, our defensive forces serve humanitarian missions. Last year, 60% of all military deployments globally were for disaster relief. She pulled up a different set of statistics. Look at these trends. The screen showed declining rates of conflict deaths over centuries. We're still violent, Wright acknowledged, but we're getting better. Each generation is less tolerant of war than the last. We haven't had a major power conflict in decades. Because you've made war too destructive, Plink pointed out. Partly, Wright agreed, but also because we've recognized that cooperation is more beneficial than conflict. Trade, cultural exchange, shared scientific advancement, these create stronger bonds than fear. She led them to a wall of photographs, humans of all colors and backgrounds working together in various crisis zones. Our capacity for violence shaped us, Wright said quietly. But so did our capacity for compassion. The same determination that helped us survive wars now helps us build peace. Back on their ship that evening, the aliens debated intensely. We should classify them as an extreme threat, Zoral argued. They could destroy themselves and anyone who encounters them. But they haven't, Plink countered. Despite thousands of years of warfare, they've advanced culturally and technologically. It defies explanation. Quarlo had been uncharacteristically quiet. Perhaps, he finally said, their violence served a purpose we can't comprehend. Natural selection on a societal scale. What do you mean? Zoral asked. Each war forced them to innovate not just weapons, but medicine, logistics, communications. And surviving those horrors required cooperation on increasing scales. Tribes became city-states, became nations, became global coalitions. Plink's eye stalks quivered with realization. Their conflicts forced them to become more cooperative. Precisely, Quarlo said. Humans aren't just violent or just peaceful. They're aggressively cooperative. They fight with the same intensity that they save lives. So what do we report to the council? Zoral asked. Quarlo stared out the view screen at the blue-green planet. That we've discovered the most terrifying and inspiring species in the galaxy. As the inquiring mind prepared for departure, Quarlo finalized their report to the Galactic Council. Species human Homo sapiens. Classification, paradoxically advanced civilization. Threat assessment, significant but contextual. Recommendation, limited engagement with extensive monitoring. Is paradoxically advanced even an official classification? Zoral asked, reading over his shoulder. It is now, Quarlo replied. How else do we describe a species that nearly wiped itself out dozens of times but used that destructive capability to forge unprecedented cooperation? Their human contacts had gathered to bid them farewell their cover as diplomatic researchers had held throughout the mission. Professor Thompson, General Rodriguez, Mike Chen, and Dr. Wright stood near the ship's landing struts. Did you get everything you needed for your research? Thompson asked. More than expected, Quarlo replied diplomatically. Rodriguez handed them a small package. A souvenir, don't open it until you're home. Plink accepted it gingerly, scanning it with 3 different devices when Rodriguez wasn't looking. It's just a model tank, he announced, relieved. Wright approached Quarlo. I hope you'll tell your people that there's more to us than our conflicts. That has become abundantly clear, Quarlo assured her. Your species is uniquely complex. As they completed the farewell rituals, Chen pulled Plink aside. Hey, I finished that game prototype I mentioned, the one where humans and aliens work together to save the galaxy. Want to try it? Plink glanced nervously at Quarlo, who was deep in conversation with Wright. Just 5 minutes, Chen promised. 20 minutes later, Zoral had to physically drag Plink back to the ship. But I was about to reach level 7. Plink protested. The council is expecting our report in 3 cycles, Zoral reminded him. We need to leave now. As the ship's engines powered up, Quarlo took one last look at the humans waving below. A species that created both nuclear weapons and global vaccination programs, he mused. Both world wars and international disaster relief. Fascinating. The inquiring mind lifted off smoothly, accelerating through Earth's atmosphere. As they reached orbital distance, an alarm suddenly blared. We're being scanned, Zoral announced, checking the sensors. High-frequency targeting system extremely sophisticated. Impossible, Quarlo said. Their technology shouldn't be capable. A communication screen activated automatically. General Rodriguez's face appeared. Just tracking your departure, she said pleasantly. Safe travels. Oh, and if you ever decide to return with less academic intentions, the screen split to show several orbital platforms swiveling to track their ship. Do keep in mind that we're always prepared for visitors. The screen went dark. After a long silence, Plink finally spoke. Should we update the report? Quarlo nodded slowly. At a final note, humans appear technologically primitive only because they choose to appear so. They've been watching us the entire time. And the classification? Zoral asked. Upgrade to extreme caution, Quarlo said. And add a personal recommendation. The next research team should bring better gifts than we did. As the inquiring mind accelerated toward the jump point, Earth receded to a small blue dot behind them. The 3 researchers watched it disappear with mixed feelings of relief, terror, and most surprisingly respect. Somewhere on that tiny planet, humans continued their paradoxical existence, playing war games while building peace creating weapons while saving lives, and preparing for alien threats while waving goodbye to their visitors. Humanity, it seemed, contained multitudes, and the galaxy would never look at them quite the same way again.